Welcome back to another episode of Line of Defense Podcast. I'm your host, Quentin Q. Copels, and today we got a special guest in the building, a big brother of mine, a special man to not just me, but my family as well. Ladies and gentlemen, new to some, old to others, Mr. Brian Ellis. How are you?
I'm blessed. I'm blessed to be here today. Thanks for having me.
Dope. I just want to kind of name out some of the things that you have done over the course of your career and kind of giving people a little brief introduction. But I thought I'd give these iconic labels that you have on your resume. Tell us a little bit more about like who you are. So, retired lieutenant of Sacramento Police Department, watch commander for operations, SWAT commander for special ops, patrol division sergeant, neighborhood crime unit sergeant, and then parole intervention team, and now the CSO of a company named Magnus. Did I leave anything out that you would like to add?
No, I mean, in simple terms, it's
I know it's only a short part of it. I get it.
I do
but
some cop stuff
that's
in
like,
my previous slide.
to say the least. So yeah, tell the people a little bit about like, who you are, first and foremost as a man, but then who you developed to be over the course of time throughout the different careers that you embarked.
Yeah, that's a great question. So I'm a father of four. Um, got the youngest still in the house, so we're almost empty nesters, which kind of terrifies me to death.
Oh yeah.
It goes by so fast,
It
and it
does.
just doesn't. We were always the house that neighborhood kids converged on, right?
Right.
All my peanut butter and bread was constantly gone. I mean, I'm going through milk like it's. I mean, I can tell you a story real quick. Is I'm working late nights, and so I get up, and it's I don't know, it's a Saturday or Sunday morning. House is quiet. I come downstairs. I'm still tired. I'm looking for a cup of coffee.
Right.
There's a kid in my kitchen that I'd never seen in my life, and I'm like,
Right.
looking around. There's nobody else in the house.
Oh boy.
And I'm like, who are you? He goes, I'm Colby. So in natural, I'm thinking, okay, he's my son's friend.
Right.
I said, where's Devin? He's like, oh, he's down at the bike jumps. I was hungry. And I'm like, fair enough. Nice to meet you, Colby. And I grabbed my coffee.
Way to meet you.
That's it. So no, I did 25 years in law enforcement. And then 3.5 years ago with some colleagues, we launched, this platform it's a performance and readiness platform, targeted at law enforcement because we saw the big strains that they were having organizationally with wellness and a lack of leadership direction. Not really lack of leadership direction, of just lack of overall leadership development opportunities in space. And we thought we had an opportunity to help, and that's what we've been doing. It's been working out. It's been great.
So what are some of the problems that you guys have been solving with working with, public safety officers and departments over the course of 3 years now?
Yeah, it's been a little over 3.5.
Right.
And well, I mean, one of the challenges is training. I mean, there's mandated trainings that every agency has, whether it's every state has different state mandates. And then beyond that, there's a decent amount of training, but the problem with training, and I could tell you, when I was a boss in a police department, there's a lot of people that want training, and then it's like, okay, well, how does this training not only benefit that person, but benefit the organization and the mission at hand? And a lot of trainings just kind of fall short because they're not sticky. That somebody goes in and they learn something, and they get all wound up and excited about the class that they took.
Right.
But a week later, 90% of that information's gone. It's out it's out the door.
Right.
Or the binder sits on a shelf, never to be opened again. And so the principles, even if it was a good class, it's really not sticky. So we're trying to solve that sticky a problem, and we've done it in a pretty innovative way using technology. And then just the lack of leadership and wellness development to the law enforcement community. I mean, nobody told me. I've got a new project I'm doing right now, a new training, and it's called "This Is Your Brain on Police Work." Nobody's taught me anything about my brain.
Right.
I didn't learn anything about that in school. My job most certainly didn't tell me the
Right.
things that would impact me both
Yes.
on the job and off the job. And I really had to learn that by myself. It's quite interesting when you start thinking about the things, if you know about your brain, how much easier your work becomes,
Mhm.
your performance becomes, your relationships around you. And it really just kind of comes back to that. We have to be able to have self command of ourselves, of our feelings, of our behaviors,
Right.
of our belief system, right? We see that in society right now, how challenged we are and divided on our belief systems. And once you start to kind of really understand that aspect of your brain, you can start putting those puzzle pieces together and actually start to flourish in any position or environment that you're in.
Right. So with these trainers, not to I guess expose too much, but like are you guys doing a lot of using technology in regards to training the brain and helping them understand how their brain are functioning in distressful or stressful situations, or is it more so practical applications that they can actually do on a day-to-day basis that is basically hardwiring their brain to be able to react and respond in a professional way in regards when they come in contact with whatever that issue may be.
That was a great question. So it's kind of all the above.
Okay.
So there's a coaching component, right? So we try to be kind of a person's digital coach. You're in this ecosystem where you have a wide array of tools available to you that are either their assessments to kind of figure out your stress scores. We have uh, saboteur assessments to kind of figure out, hey, what are the things that trigger me? What are my preferences? And really try to get to really know yourself
Right.
on a better level. When I took my first assessments years ago, I mean, it's like going to like a palm reader, right?
Right.
They're like, "How do they know this much about me?" Right? Well, it's because the way you answer questions,
Mhm.
kind of starts to reveal,
Right.
certain characteristics about yourself. And then once you kind of realize that, then you could see that there's opportunities for your growth well beyond just job performance. It's
Mhm.
like, hey, the stuff that we're teaching is impactful at home. It's impactful in relationships between friends.
Right.
And so we try to just develop this whole person system. And that's where really the Magnus theory comes in. It's, we look at these different rings of well-being.
Mhm.
And we believe that if you're functioning well across this entire system that we've created, that, a high tide rises all boats,
Right.
and then you start seeing people flourish.
In your studies, there hasn't been like any two people of one of the same, or like how do you have you guys ran into a issue where there has been multiple people that respond a different way, or multiple people that react certain ways that kind of like so you can't necessarily form a place where everybody can work congruently. It's kind of like they all are on the opposite side of each other. So how will you guys manage that in regards to being a police department? Because I'm sure that there's many departments where maybe the leadership is good, but the students or the officers are not, or maybe the officers are ambitious and then the leader is stuck in his ways. Things like that. So how would you guys like resolve that type of issue when you put these guys through these numerous of tests and get these results and the data shows that pretty much everybody's on the opposite side of the board. So how do you guys bring that to the centerfold and how them to be doing their job at a high level, but also maintaining the discipline they need for their brains to operate in a functional way to keep them sane, one, and then healthy, not only just mentally and physically, but emotionally as well.
That's a great question, and you know, basically, our platform is designed to, you know, it's like if you think about like an NFL football game,
Right.
right? The game has become so data obsessed, right?
Mhm.
Or baseball, just data, 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 more, until that data drives. I've always said, even in tactical operations, intelligence drives tactics,
Mhm.
not information.
Correct.
There's a big difference between information
Right.
and intelligence. And so the more data that we can produce, aggregate data
Mhm.
for an organization, the better choices that they can make, right? And so we've developed a way to get aggregate data while keeping people safe because, when you start thinking about leadership and when you start really thinking about people in general, it's the Maslow's hierarchy of needs. I mean, safety is
Right.
is paramount. And so, like, if you were in a meeting and somebody's asking you a question and you think this project stinks, but it's your boss's pet project,
Right.
if you're not psychologically safe, you're gonna say, "It's a great project, boss. I'm all in," right?
Right. Right. Right.
And so what we're able to do is tailor a growth approach to an individual that nobody gets to see specific data markers that help them grow
Mm.
where they're at. So they could be, completely crappy in their emotional intelligence.
Right.
That crappy score is not going to get reported to anybody to say Brian's
It's
crappy in his
crappy.
emotional intelligence,
Yeah.
right? So they can have their own growth journey in it, but aggregate data is collected to see data points that help the organization as a whole. Because quite frankly, you know, organizational leaders need to have good information to make the best choices that they possibly can. It's been a fun ride. I mean, you know, naturally, some of the challenges is the system's pretty technical, so you can get overwhelmed by events.
Right.
You can kind of go, I really don't even know, like, and it takes time. It takes time to listen and respond and kind of move an organization in the right direction. But over time, you could start seeing, especially from a systems perspective, you get the right system in place. The players kind of get they level out into that system, right?
Right.
If that system is good, the challenge is always a lot of organizations aren't set up to really strategically think about systems. They're just dealing with, chaos all the time.
Hmm.
And that really deep thought, that deep work of thinking about, hey, how does the system play out in in our overall mission? And that's where we can kind of come in and help. And we're really good at it.
What was the moment that obviously you came from the battlefield or out of the streets, however you want to put it? What was that moment that you had where you realized that there needs to be there needs to be a platform or a program, or you just need to take the initiative to actually create something that serves not only the officers itself, but the department as a whole?
One, it's my experience,
Mhm.
right? I mean, unfortunately, I've been in a number of police shootings. I've lost people in the line of duty that kind of broke me.
Yeah.
I've worked around people that weren't there the next day because they committed suicide. Um, I have a lot of scars, marks, and tattoos from the job in regards, and sometimes managers are really heartless to their organization, to their people. They don't see the person.
Right.
I can only equate it to, I mean, I know we've had conversations in the past of like professional sports. Your name gets called one day and you're like, here's your plane ticket to the next city you're going to go play. You just got traded or,
Right.
you got cut. That there's more than just this game that we're playing, right?
Right.
There's more than just this job. I was also a trainer
Mm.
statewide. And so I listened to a lot of people just talk about the same problems
Mm.
about, sometimes the heartlessness of the job internally, the burnout, again, the suicides. Um, I lost an officer in the line of duty in 2019. It broke me. Nobody once asked me how I was doing.
Mm.
Nobody from my command staff asked me how are you doing. It crushed me on so many levels. It was a young lady, beautiful young girl, and early in her career, and she was taken away from under circumstances that hey, it was just I don't necessarily know if there was anything that could have been done differently. I mean, sometimes your ticket just gets punched, and it's sad, but you know there's still this after those things happen
Right.
that you still have to have care and conviction for people and pick people back up. And even when people make bad mistakes, Like there's a difference between a mistake of the heart versus a mistake of the mind.
Mhm.
And, pick those people back up and I saw all this stuff and then been having a lot of deep conversations about how leadership training isn't really sticky and how, going to a class doesn't really move the needle for the organization. How can we fix that? And so, or at least how can we contribute in a positive, meaningful way? And so that's what we did. We started rolling up our sleeves and came up with an innovative solution to make it happen.
It's interesting when you brought up, losing um, one of your colleagues in on the battlefield. I look at, the fact that nobody checked on you, nobody reached out, and you kind of tied it in with professional sports. And it kind of just brought me back to like, you're solving it from um, a police, law enforcement, kind of like military slash bases. And I'm coming from the professional sports world, and you integrate it very well, obviously, into the corporate space. But I have these same stories with professional football players and professional athletes. And I guess my question, or based off, your research and what you're seeing is, do you believe that obviously we can change the soul? What would it take for us to get to a place where we're recognizing that healthy leadership doesn't look like a dictator? I guess I'm trying to articulate. It's not about, you screaming from the top up. You know what I mean? It's actually, yelling at the top from the bottom with them. And what I mean by that is being able to lead people while being with people versus leading people from an office, a desk, or a title. And it has obviously caused severe drama. If you look in the sports world, just this past weekend, we had the end of the season, and I'm looking at, Raheem Moore is one of the local coaches here in Atlanta. He goes from, the press conference, hugs the owner, and everything is well. Gets back home, and it flashed across the screen that he's been released. He's been fired. I struggle with understanding, but like, how is that like, um, how do we come up with like that makes sense? Like I come from like, if as a man is a man, we had these conversations. It's a hard conversation, obviously. I'm about to let you go. You're gonna have to find another career, another job, and then you're departing from people that went to work with every day, grew to love or grew to like, and those type of situations or experiences will never go away. They'll never fade away. But now you're looking at a situation where we have chosen to just be cutthroat. We're just gonna sit here and just literally
It's
fire the
just
men.
business.
Yeah, like it's just
Right.
business, but it's not, because at the end of the day, you're building animals, and I don't think that you're less of a man or you're weaker by having a conversation and letting them know that like we're deciding to go a different way. Like I talk with many athletes that, we've had talks about this, but there's been experiences where a guy was leaving his friends and family and was headed to go to um, a team that he was going to. And when he got to the airport, his friends called him. They had just dropped him off to go to this organization. They called him and like, bro, we just seen that you just got released, that you you got fired. You know what I mean? And so it's like, imagine that. Like, imagine going home, celebrating, everybody happy. They don't want to send you off, but then they know you got to go back to to your team, and then you get to the airport, check in, get ready to head to your gate, and then you get a phone call that you've been released, you've been fired, and no agent called you, no GM called you, no team rep called you. You find out from the people that love you, and because you put it on the media. So I think there's a place, and I guess my question to you is, where's that healthy? It's business, but it's also not heartless.
When I promoted to lieutenant, I had a deputy chief tell me, "Don't get too close to your people. You're in management now." And I'm like, "What is that supposed to?" I think he saw the curious look on my face and said, "At some point, you're going to have to discipline them." And I'm like, "Okay."
Okay, you're right. Hey,
Like
it's not bad.
I discipline my
Sure,
children,
right.
and I love my children. I'm going to be very
Right.
close to my children,
Right.
or it's just business.
Mhm.
And in 2000, man, I'm getting old now, but so 2008, we had recession.
Mhm.
First time in my police organization's time when I was there, we were giving pink slips to officers. Officers were literally going to get let go. Like
Right.
there's, the bottom babies, right?
Yeah.
The newbies. Sorry, you don't have tenure.
Yeah.
Peace out. So I'm asking, I'm like, what are we doing for those people? I mean, like, I felt compelled to say we should be calling every other police organization saying, hey, do you have any openings?
Mhm.
Or, going through our police foundation to every business that we know and saying, hey, we got to let these, some people go. Do you have any jobs available?
Right.
Like, use our network to give these people soft landings.
Absolutely.
I've thought a lot about this because, um, I've had my own collision with similar scenarios,
Mhm.
and it really just comes down to culture. Um, you look at like a country like Japan, where it's an honor both for the organization and for that employee to have a long-term committed relationship with that company. People bounce around all the time now, and as a culture right now, we are, you know, I've made several posts about this. I even written an article about this bigger, stronger, faster mentality
Mhm.
makes us smaller, weaker, slower. Bigger, stronger, faster. We're always trying with more.
Right.
Everything we want more.
Mhm.
We want it faster. Just the pace of that, from a business sense. If your goal is just to make money, you're going to step all over people
Mhm.
to make money.
You be attracted to greed.
And, if your goal is to make, uh, you know, a, something in this world better,
Mhm.
then, money will come.
Mhm.
And I think we've just kind of lost the culture of that. I mean, if you look around, everybody wants to, if you young people now, they want to be influencers.
Right.
Influence what?
Entertainment. That's what I call them. Entertainers.
And it's just business. We've offshored a lot of jobs
Mhm.
overseas because it's about making money. So we've really kind of lost our soul in
Mhm.
that. And so I think as a society, we have to get back to love, really.
Mm.
It sound it and really the only way to get back to love is get back to the book. I think it's just that simple.
Right.
Any of those heartless systems are just not the football coach example. I get it. Wins mean everything. And if you're not progressing, then there's going to be a day that you're going to get axed. My question is, are there conversations behind the scenes going on with the coach saying, like, hey, we're in this together? What is it about the system that is falling apart? And if you could start pinpointing that it's these decisions that the coach is making and that they're getting coached, so to
Mhm.
speak, kind of supported, and it's still not working. Well, like I don't see a problem in firing somebody with no context, no conversation, no support, no not that's just ugly
It's
business.
sick. And all right, so let's talk about it. The system, and this is just behind the scenes, but the system is, I'm with you until I'm not. You know what I mean? And it's not business to me because here's how I see and I view how the NFL plays on people. So it's obviously you have the top guys, the top dogs who are decision makers, the owners who are decision makers. What I've recognized is that NFL is an investment for them, right? So it's just like investing in stock. Like I might invest in Nvidia, may not know nothing about chips or AI, anything, right? However, I'm invested in that and I get a byproduct of making money off of that investment. All right. But I don't understand NVIDIA. So when the NVIDIA goes down, instead of me understanding that it's not going to continue to just rise each and every time. There's going to be a dip, right? Instead of me saying, okay, here's a dip, I need to pay attention to what's happening in that dip. I don't need to sell my Nvidia because of the dip. I need to understand like what caused the dip and what measurements are the company taking in regards to making sure that this dip doesn't go any further. That would be proper research. So put that into football terms. If I'm a coach or I'm an owner, I'm hiring the coach that best fit to get us the success that we're seeking out, right? With that investment, I have to allow him to come in and actually cultivate and culture. If I That may take 1 to 2 years, all right, to get rid of the old and come in with the new, right? Just like in every 4 years, we'll let the new president, right? They don't have the same ideas, they don't have the same goals, they don't have the same vision for America. So we have to get rid of the old and come in with the new. So with that being said, if the fans, and this is the illusion that's happening, the fans will say, fire him. Okay, they're considered the fans' voice because the fans are looked upon as the people who support the team. This is the revenue. This is the people that are investing into the team. The fans just want they just want they just want wins. They don't want like success. They just want to win. Do enough to keep me happy, right? So be above 500, and that's good enough because now I can brag on my team for 4, 5, 8 weeks out of the year that we gotta win. All right, take that, right, and then so after they do, with the fans, they'll actually act like they're entertaining the fans by making the decision that the fans are asking for. Well, once you make that decision, now it's fired. Now everything starts back over from zero, and then you have to bring somebody else in, and guess what they have to do? Reinvent the wheel. They have to bring in a culture. They have to do this and that. Where the fans don't really care. The fans are not invested in the actual team. They are invested in winning and bragging. That's what fans do. They pray and hope that you win, and then they want to go brag for the rest of the week about them winning. All right. So it doesn't make sense for me to take advice from them because they have short term goals. They don't have long term goals. So now you're looking at situations like I take my former team for example, right? The Jets, whatever his name is, right? I can't think of his name. I don't know why I'm having a brain fart, whatever. But
Robert
anyway,
Saleh?
no, the coach there now.
Oh, man. I'm not a Jets fan, so I don't follow it right now.
Heck is his name? He was a DB and everything, whatever. Take him for example, right? Had the worst year. All right. With that being said, had the worst year. He goes Aaron Glenn. All right, here we go. There we go. All right, so take Jets for example, right? Aaron Glenn. Aaron Glenn had the worst season ever, right? The season in regards to you can't pinpoint nothing successful that they did. The biggest claim to fame right now is they didn't intercept the ball all year. Their defense didn't get one interception. Half of the fans are saying it's too early because it's his first year. The other fans are saying, let's get rid of him. Now, in this particular situation, I'm okay with you firing him, even though, I wish him the best and hope he was, he'll have success. I think he's a great coordinator. I don't think he's a great head coach. In this case, it makes sense to fire him because what? If we go through 18 weeks, we don't have a single thing that we could pinpoint that they did good. All right? We don't have that. You look at Robert Morris, I think that's his name. Robert, whatever, we'll say Robert, whatever. For Atlanta,
Oh,
he,
Raheem.
Raheem, if you look at him, he's built something. They won the last 4 games. Now I didn't think he made a wise decision by not letting Robertson get his couple. I think he needed like 4 or 5 yards to break the record or whatever. I don't agree with that he took him out of the game. But outside of that, you look at what they did. They won like the last 4 or 5 games. You have something there. You have that. And there's no coaches on the market. I'm gonna be honest with you. There's no coaches on the market. With that being said, they kept the guy, as of now, they kept the guy who has zero because it was too early and got rid of the guy who was developing and building a culture here that needed time to actually cultivate that. And because the fans wasn't happy with the success, now mind you, their payoff decision was made last week, like whether or not they was gonna be able to do it. So I say that to say is I don't understand. So with the top people making these decisions and making the bottom feel like they're influencing the decision, I think that the people that are actually the good people who are in the middle, who brings it all together, are the people who are getting the worst end of the share. and how I see it correlates in your field, and I see it correlates in obviously sports as well. Why do you believe that this is the case, and what do you believe that we can do to kind of shift that?
I see I see a couple problems. The first one is we're so impatient
Right.
as a society. Like, think about the average person right now and the relationship they have with their phone
Hmm.
and how much anxiety they would have to put that phone down.
Oh, it's insane.
And I mean, that in itself should make you think about your relationship with patients. The other
Right.
one is I just don't know how many, you know, from an outside looking in, you think, oh, the NFL is they're doing everything right. They've got every single facet of their business down to a science.
Mhm.
I'm not so sure
We
that's the
can prove that they
reality.
don't.
I mean, so my question then becomes is from a systems, does a team have a general, right? Like a
Yeah.
general that's going to say, I need this many resources on the field. I need logistics. I need, like, and then making sure that everything is kind of, cohesively working. And I look at that from like my experience in the gym.
Mhm.
You go in the gym and you expect to have the same workout that you had last week, but you didn't sleep at all and you're stressed and maybe you didn't eat the same,
Not gonna
you're
happen.
going to bonk. It's not going to happen, right?
Right.
I mean, there's so many different components that go into having a good day in the gym, um, outside of the gym that really, really matter. The systems effect,
Mhm.
where does that go? Man, I had another good, but I'm getting old, so it's some of these good ideas could flow in and out of the head.
Yeah.
But I really think that it's I know what it was. It's conflict. As a society, we view conflict as bad.
Yes. Talk about it.
Conflict is, I think conflict is love.
Correct.
It's the way we do conflict
Correction is
that
love.
sucks.
Absolutely.
And I think, especially in law enforcement,
Mhm.
I don't want to broad brush an entire profession, but I can say in my old organization, we played fifth grade kickball behind the scenes.
Mhm.
If people throw a fit that, you know, Tommy messed up, he didn't get to first base because he
Right.
tripped after he kicked the ball, or he had a prosthetic leg and it popped off. Real story. I grew up with a
That's
kid
crazy.
that had a prosthetic leg, kicked the ball a mile in kickball. And one day he just launched one and had to hop to first base. Um,
Wow.
it was awesome. But the conflict,
Mhm.
and when I say that we just don't know how to give good feedback to people,
Mhm.
loving feedback.
Mhm.
When you have a problem, it's okay.
Right.
I can't read your mind, and so you have to be man enough to come to me and say, "Hey, we have an issue,
Right.
and let's talk about it." Like as an employee, I want to be a good employee.
Right.
I want to have meaning and purpose and do a good job. And I think the vast majority of people, when they're at work,
Mhm.
they they want to do a good job, and then nobody checks in on them. Nobody wishes them a happy birthday. Nobody, does the little things that, and then they're scrolling or they're not working that hard, or they're looking for another job. When I first got promoted to lieutenant, I was like, okay, how can I make the organization better?
Right.
And and the chief was excited because I was a new promotee. And hey, how's everything going? And I said, oh, I got the chief's office. I went to the secretary and I got the list of everybody's birthdays
Mm.
for the whole organization. We're talking 1,200 people.
Right.
Um, and I'm going to wish everybody a happy birthday on their birthday. And that was a pain in the ass
Oh
because
boy. 1,200.
you got 1,200 employees. You only got
Right.
365 days. I got days off. I'd be on vacation
Right.
or I'd be with the family, and my wife's like, "What the hell are you doing?" "Oh, I got to text this person or I got to send
Right.
this person an email." And I did it. And I did it for several years. And what came out of that was I had like people that I really didn't know in the organization, like
Mhm.
a records clerk that said, my boss never even said happy birthday to me.
Mm.
And thank you for that. I think a lot of people are just craving some kind of recognition.
Right.
And I would imagine even on an NFL team, there might be players that have very little interaction with the head coach.
Very little.
And okay, and then next thing you know, boom, I'm getting traded and I have no idea why. I'm trying to be a good boy.
Right.
I'm trying to do my job. And there might be other, there might be different nuances to it. I'm not saying that all trades are bad.
Mhm.
But what I'm saying is that perceived conflict means, okay, well, I'm going to give crappy feedback, or I'm just not going to do it at all, and I'm going to bitch about it.
Mhm.
I'm just going to complain about it behind closed doors or to the people that I know. And then, you have this emotion that just keeps building
Mhm.
on both sides because at the end of the day, people want to know, hey, am I progressing? Am I, like,
Am I getting better?
am I getting better?
Yeah. I think that's so true because even in football, very rarely do you hear like any encouragement outside of making a play. And I think that's even worse because you imagine going from your home or your family and traveling hundreds, sometimes thousands of miles away, right? And then you you thinking that you're going into another family and finding out that it's nothing but business. Like, and then so when you get there, you thinking that you're finna be received well, and you're not. And so then you have to mature and be something that you're not for a career. And it's constantly psychologically developing you to be this person, which is where I really think it's a byproduct of the people that are in charge, their experiences. They're basically reimposing those things onto the people. And we're basically on the hamster wheel. We just keep going in circle and we're not actually being innovative. We're not actually creating change and we're not actually solving real problems. We're just birthing a new cycle of people and putting them in the same traumas each and every day. And I think it's doing us a disservice. And I think this is the reason why the game is watered down. And even in, I'm seeing it even in the security world, with the protection world, like I'm seeing it as well. Like I'm seeing that with poor leadership, and then people that are at the top just reinforcing their traumas onto other people. We're getting the same people just at different times. You know what I mean? So that the trauma that I had and I imposed that on you, you develop it and became more angrier. And then you became that person to somebody else versus me actually being a man and dealing with it with you or having, like you said, having that conversation with you or discussing the conflict that we had, allowing us to progress and move forward, having a sense of peace and of mind, in regards to the solution, whether, I was right, you was right, or we just agree to disagree. There was a solution to that, and then we progressed and went on with our lives. And now it makes it easier for me to be able to have a conversation with my next boss or my colleague and be able to interact with them in a productive way because now I understand that it's not wrong to have a conversation. Like I'm not the bad guy. It's not evil to have a conversation about something that I disagree with or I don't fully understand. And in order for me to progress or proceed to work for you or to work in this workplace, I would like to have the answer to why are we doing this? Because this was one of my things, a true story. I was in New York, and basically every year, 1 or 2 years or so, the union would come in. They would have a meeting with team reps. Usually an older guy, usually a vet or whatever. They would have a conversation, and then they would make that conversation. They would decide what I say the fate of the rest of the team and everybody who was not into into that meeting. Okay, so then after they decide that, they'll come back and have a conversation with us, but it's a brief conversation. It's like, hey, we got a new rule on the table or a new agreement that we agree with the union and the owners. Sign this paper. And I'm like, hey, thank you for the information. What exactly are we signing or whatever? And then it ended up being like, some other new clause or something, some little stuff that they hide in writing where they're taking more money or union fees increase. And it's like, where are union fees going? Where the union fees is going to the retired players or whatever. Where the retired players that I'm seeing come to the practice are looking beat up and broke down. So where's all this money that we're giving to the union going? Or whatever. And then you find out that like, oh, the union rep has like an unstable household. And what I mean by that is he has kids, he has bastard kids where he had kids all over the place. Like, oh, okay. And he's making decisions based upon us. And then, but it's like funneling money, like certain something like we dealing with now with some of the corruption that we're in our country now and whatnot. But it's like more so like, hey, this ain't right. Why are you making me sign this? Or why did you even agree to this? Why didn't you just say, hey, I need 4 or 5 of y'all to come with me. We need to stand up to this. You know what I mean? And so like even when I look at my draft, like when I got drafted a 16 pick, and this I tell the story all the time. The 2 years before that, the guy made 40 million extra dollars over me, over my draft. In 2 years, 40 extra $1 million. We signed the contract. So 2011 was the lockout. I came out in 2012. The 2010 16 pick made 40 extra $1 million than me. 2011, the lockout. The lockout was every lockout supposed to increase our revenue. It's supposed to. It didn't increase ours. It decreased ours, right? They used Jamarcus Russell, who had $100 million, who went from zero, starving, don't know where I'm gonna get my next meal, to $50 million in his bank account. Okay. They used him, his horror story, and leveraged that against players to get a deal that didn't represent us at all. So now I lost $40 million in exchange for 5-year post-career benefits. Now, are the benefits good? Absolutely. However, I could find a 5 to 15 year plan with $40 million and still have some left over. So it didn't make sense. So then you also restructure it where the NFL are making incoming draftees or first year players play 4 years. The first rounders play 4 years, second rounders play 3.5 to 4 years, and then as you go down further, you basically go on a 2 year contract, or unless you real late, and then it's like day to day because you could be cut any minute, right? So now we got to reprove ourselves. Mind you, we supposed to be getting drafted for proving ourselves. So now we got to reprove ourselves when we get in the NFL. All right, that's 4 years. Then they got this new thing they got called franchise. So now we can franchise tag you. All right, so we don't have to make commitment. 4 years, right? Average career is what? A little under 3. All right, so now you got the franchise tag. All right, so now I can get up to 7 to 8 years of not actually paying you real money, your amount or your worth. In exchange, that's what the lockout was for. We exchanged millions of dollars. So my year would have been 40 extra million. So I probably would have made 65, 70. I ended up making like 22, 23. So it would have been like 63, 65, right? And then the next year after that probably would have been about 70, 72. And the next year would have been 80. And we would have been good. It's sort of like the basketball, how they have their contracts. It would have been perfectly well. But now we're sitting here. And now, not only that, they cut the years down. So the first round used to have like 6 to 8 years, which allowed you to actually develop and actually become the person that you can't be, the person that they drafted you to be. But now it's 4 years. And I could take that hit from the 20 million than I can from the 80 million. The 80 million, I gotta make right with that. The 20 million or the 15, 30 million, depending on what it is with after tax or whatever, and depending on what you negotiated. Now I could take that hit and not feel it versus the 80 million. So the accountability for them is gone. Because now you don't have to allow me to develop no more. You just cut me. And we just move on. And we just keep trying to recycle and find players or whatever. And then again, it goes back to you not developing culture. You don't got no culture. The most beautiful thing about the New England Patriots is they had culture. Everybody knew when you go into New England, you're not going to get paid. You're going to get a good contract, and you're going to get paid for your time and your worth. But it ain't gonna be no crazy extravagant contract. And you're going to win. It's a culture, militant. You got to be in your chair 5 to 7 minutes ahead of time. This meeting, that meeting, uniform up to par. We're not doing all these flashy cleats and all this. No, 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 no. Straight uniform. We're playing it by the rules. This is what's going on. Bill Belichick set that president in the meetings, and it worked. And they got what, 7? Well, 4. On the back end, 4 to 5. So it's like it works. Because there was a culture, everybody knew their position, everybody knew their role. One of those superstars there, even Brady. Brady took nobody talks about it, but he took pay cuts. Brady didn't take the biggest contract, even when he was top dog. He took pay cuts because it was more about their winning. And then when you saw he got to Tampa Bay, he started getting that real money and stuff like that. Like he understood the game. nobody else is understanding the game, so I just feel like the system is not there.
That's the challenge too, from the fan side
Right.
is, and I think it adds to this impatience. Like I'm a Niners fan, right? And I know you can.
Oh boy,
And this last week,
this is oversight.
but hey, this last week, everybody's like rant and raving that but if you think about, okay, they're going into this game with a 6-game winning streak, just a dogfight with the Bears the week before.
Yeah, that was a crazy game.
The league is all about, like ups and like at some point, bang, it's going to happen to you, right? You need a loss. It was the best time for them to lose. They needed to have a loss. You can't think you're going to take a 16 win with as many injuries and everything else that they got going on and ride to the Super Bowl. Ain't going to happen. Sorry.
Why do you think that?
Come on now. Come
Well,
on.
why do you think that?
Come on.
I'm asking.
I'm just saying it's a league of streaks.
Okay.
At least it is right now.
Mm-hmm.
And then the deeper you get into the season with the injuries and everything else, and these guys, I'm telling you, I think the 49ers, and we've talked about this, are one of the most brittle teams in the league. And so as a fan, when they had the stacked team a couple years ago, and then they go, this guy goes down, this guy goes down. Oh, Dre Greenlaw goes, goes down. I'm just like, my God, it's over.
Right.
It's over because all these guys are going to go, they're going to leave to get paid this year. I mean, I got to give credit where credit's due in regards to, the next man up has been producing, but you ain't got no more. I don't think they have any linebackers for this week.
No more
Everyone is injured.
No more man.
So from a systems perspective, I'm like, well, what's causing all these injuries? Is it, are they working too hard or are they not working hard enough? And then I go back to, the same thing with if we're just chasing money, the system's going to gobble you alive. Because, name the last time somebody actually legitimately invested time, energy, into you. You'll walk up a gravel road barefooted for somebody that loves on you.
Correct.
That's the nature of reciprocity.
But that's where the issue is.
I can vividly remember, years ago, I don't know who decided to do it. So when you became a detective inside the department, they gave you this fancy bag and it had, this DVD that had all the search warrant and all these paperwork that you're going to need to do your job. You got a cool little raid vest. You got basically this care package like, hey, you made it.
Yeah.
You're in detective now. Boom. Here's your little, and everybody I don't know what it was, the allure to this bag, but everybody in the department wanted the damn bag. Right. But they made it special. Right. And there was other things that they were doing to make and I took that when I became, when I was a watch commander, I was like, I want to make sure that I don't got a fancy bag to give somebody, but I am going to spend more time with them and I'm going to develop them, as much as I possibly can. And I'm going to tell them that, hey, you're going to make mistakes. I'm going to probably make some mistakes. And, the more that we talk, with each other and problem solve together, we'll get cleaner solutions.
Right.
I'll tell you that I never had a sergeant when I gave him something that didn't run with that, like there was no, but I know plenty of sergeants that complained about projects that they got from other bosses because they just knew that they were the pass man. They were just handing stuff out. Like I would take things and I would go, I'm going to handle this, or I'm going to give this to somebody else, or I'm going to throw this damn thing away.
Right.
This is a waste of time. So there's just really this development mindset. And again, I go back to culture of when you have a good culture, you think about every detail. Like, okay, does this man have what he needs to succeed on and off the field? Because if you're in a good culture, that off the field means just as much as on the field, because the off the field contributes to his on the field play. If your personal life's in disarray, or you ain't eating good,
right,
or you're not sleeping good, all these factors hit you over here. And so building men of character is to every professional athlete, sports teams advantage. I'm just not so sure how many organizations are really getting in the weeds on stuff.
I don't think it's hardly any. I think where the NFL is now, from what I hear, see, and just having that experience in that room, I think it's more like box checking. And I think they do enough so you don't. And it's the same thing in retirement. You know, when you see these emails and you see these, you go to these chapter meetings, it's just box checking. And so the league, if you have been a fan of the league, you can see where it's been stagnant. And now it's getting worse. I just made a tweet about this because now they have let gambling infiltrate the game, the league. And so now it's starting to become you're trying to guess who the one with the most money behind it, the bet, who they chose. But then you got the other guy who was just so happened to be at the bar. He probably on practice squad, or he probably, one of the few last men on the 53-man roster, but he plays special teams and he's a L4. And it's like, hey, here go 100,000. Make sure you miss your tackle, your block on the kickoff return. And now that shifts the whole dynamic of the game. And much as I can criticize that, what I can also say is, hey, what are you guys doing to to make sure that when this bribe is offered to him, that he's in a position to be able to deny it. And I think that's the issue because now we're going to run into this, and this is the new day, this new day and age, these new kids. I just saw a guy named Tom something, but anyway, it was one of these B writers or these guys that cover the sport now was just talking about how he's hoping that one of the kids that are coming out to enter the draft have a conversation with his agent and see if the Raiders are going to pick him or if the Raiders are not going to pick him, he should stay in school because he shouldn't want to go to the Jets as a second on the second overall pick. Now, what message do you think you're sending? It's at a place now where I'm like, it's strictly business. This ain't football at all. The owners created this atmosphere. When you don't want to pay a player that has already proven himself, when you want to franchise them or you want to just keep nickel and diming them, when we're not setting up guaranteed contracts. When we're not doing these things, and I'm like, when you're not doing these things, here's what happens. Now you putting these people in position where they had to make a decision about, do I maximize as much money as I can get now, or do I stay loyal and win? This is why we having different, when New England was on a run, we knew New England was going to make it. Kansas City was on a run, we knew Kansas City was going to make it. You know what I mean? Whether they wanted it or not, we knew they was going to make it because of what they did. That culture, they took care of their players, and it was built properly. We can't say that the same about nobody no more.
That's the challenge that you have when, again, you make it all about money.
Yeah.
Then the mindset from the employee's perspective is, well, I'm gonna get mine. I'm gonna do everything that I can do to, and sometimes that might not even benefit the organization as a whole. I mean, look at the NBA scandal stuff, right? All this sports betting, everything else, and some of that money, it's like, man, you're not even making a lot of money off of that, and you're putting yourself in these integrity issues. One thing, criminal issues, another thing, but then you go back to, if the system is just pushing in this, hey, it's all business, it's all about money, then at some point, the employees are gonna do, they're just gonna protect them. So they're gonna do, it's like, okay, well, I only have so much effort to give you. I'm only gonna do this, or this, that wasn't my role. As opposed to, you have that love,
Right.
right? If love is back in the equation, is
Mhm.
love is part of that game, and then it's like, man, I'm gonna go the extra mile, or you know what? I'm gonna restructure my contract because I see what we're doing here, and and I wanna win, right?
But you
And
become the bad guy. They have it set up where you only accept their terms and agreement. You only accept their terms, and if you don't, you're the bad guy, right? Key example, if you give me a BS contract deal, right? and training camp come around and I sit out, who's the bad guy?
Oh, yeah, the player.
Okay, all right, all
100%.
right, okay. So if I'm going into my contract year, I outperformed my contract last year. I want to re-up. You want to offer me a franchise tag. Who's the bad guy?
Yeah,
The
no,
player, because why? Because they've already convinced the fans that 14 million is enough. And I'm like, hey, I'm due at least 25 million per year based off my performance and my numbers. My tag is saying that I'm only worth 15 to 18 because the tag is based off your position group. It's not based off the highest level of production from your position group. It's only based off the median of your position group. So you take all those salary caps and you made together, you're like, oh, it's only 14 million a year. To the average fan who has never seen $1 million, it's like, that's a lot of money. Why are you being selfish and leaving it on the table? And it's like, hello, I'm worth 25. You're telling me that I'm only worth 14 because you get a way out by saying franchise. And the media projects it this way. And so the player loses again. So there's no fair unless we just accept the terms. And then nobody reads the fine writing. Nobody reads the contracts. Nobody reads when they try to slate it and they try to say, hey, in order for you to get this bonus, we got to make the playoffs. And this is a team sport. This isn't my individual thing. I have no control on whether or not we get to the playoffs or you get X amount of dollars if you break this record or whatever. And it's like, bro, there's so much that goes into that. That's not just something that just randomly happens. You don't want to pay me for breaking the previous record, but you put an incentive in my contract for me to double up another year and break my own record. That doesn't make sense. So at the end of the day, there's no winning for the player. The player has no leverage, and we have constantly put in bad reps for us that puts us in these positions. Now, you're gonna look at it as like 5 years post-career is good, and it is. But what about a lifetime?
yeah.
You know, if you don't took 40 million from Q, why not give him a lifetime worth of health benefits then? To make it sensible, not make it right, but just make it sensible. Because you're telling me I'm trading in $40 million for 5 years of healthcare. So if I decide to have a baby 6 years post my career, that falls on who? Me, my pocket. So you're not really caring. Why is not? I'm seeing, guys from the 80s and 90s in wheelchairs and walkers and stuff like that. With all this new science and technology we have, why don't we give some type of, put them in some type of program to see if we can, you know, rehabilitate them and get them back to functional. They ain't got to be totally healthy, but just functional, where they don't feel miserable for playing a game of football based off their trauma and the results of having hits and, in leather helmets and in fights and stuff like that. Like, these people had to take drugs to do this. Nobody talks about that. To perform at a high level, you know what I mean? And so, yeah, I wrap up with saying, all right, I want to talk about a few hot topics. Obviously, I'm going to show the video now, and then the video that we looked at. Give me your understanding on exactly what you saw in that video, and this is a video that you guys are seeing currently, where an officer in Seattle was approached a man on the freeway, which is even crazier, and I was to end up getting out of the vehicle and shortly after losing the vehicle. This is what you guys are seeing now. All right, so now we've seen this video. Tell me your thoughts on this interaction. I know it's probably crazy and unheard of, but this is something that kind of went viral, and I want to kind of touch base on it because I just want to know what exactly is going on and what issues do you see? I mean, I know there's a plethora of them, but what kind of some of the issues that, if somebody is in law enforcement hear this, or somebody that's in security world in a patrol car and want to, approach what we call a subject, what would you say what was some feedback, your first thoughts on seeing
Well,
this interaction?
yeah. Well, I mean, there's no command presence on, from the officer. I mean, obviously, if you see somebody on the freeway, I mean, right there, you've got a cause to get out your car. I
Right.
know getting out of your car on the freeway is not a safe thing to do, but the other not thing safe thing not to do is to let somebody walk up on your car and just kind of, pull you out of the wing
Right,
window.
right. That's insane.
So, funny story. I did have an officer. I think I was a sergeant at the time, where there was like some kind of incident. You know, around 11 o'clock at night. I don't know if it was a street fight or whatever. An officer gets out of, jumps out of his car because he on views
Mhm.
this cat, and he wrestles around with him. The guy grabs him, does a spin maneuver, jumps into his patrol car, and takes off. Granted, the patrol cars have GPS on 'em.
Right.
We found the car, and there's a lot of equipment in those cars.
Sure.
If you know how to undo the rifle or shotgun, he did the walk of shame for,
Yeah.
many weeks after that. And the lesson he learned, uh, of course, is, hey, pull your damn keys out of the car, right? When you're jumping out. I mean,
Right.
it's a half a second.
Right.
That guy gets you know, if he needs a little bit more distance to run, let him run. Like, you don't have, you know, and I have this old saying that, I love to use with guys is, a dog in the hunt doesn't stop scratches fleas.
Mhm.
So sometimes, you can kind of get the blinders because, you're like,
Right.
I'm in the
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
But that guy, he didn't have any in him at all. I mean, he needed some
Right.
right? Because you need to have a little bit of gusto.
Mhm.
I feel what's sad that's happened again in a lot of agencies is there's not a lot of officers that really go hands on.
Mm.
And sometimes the best way to de-escalate a situation is to take control of the situation,
Right.
right? Don't let the situation escalate even higher.
Right.
And obviously, it's a case by case basis. I've never been a fan of never and always because Murphy will come show you some kind of life puzzle
Mhm.
that will blow those theories up. A couple things that when you don't take control of a situation, people can get hurt,
Right.
including yourself, including other people. There's so much pressure on officers to justify going hands on these days that kinda just makes them a little hands-off-ish.
Yeah.
There's been a massive reduction in proactivity, and when I was leaving the job, one of the best young officers, younger than my generation, he said, uh 'cause I saw that he wasn't performing like he once did, and I kinda used the analogy of he looked like a caged tiger. He wanted to be out
Right.
of the but he's just like he says, "Well, hey, boss, I mean, they can't get your ass if you're sitting on it." That hurt me from a lot of perspectives because I'll tell you this, as much as the media and maybe even some politicians and what the media shows you on the news about protests and this and that, the vast majority of the communities that I work in, the most ghetto areas of the city that I worked in, and
Yeah.
we had some good ghettos in the city. Vast majority of those people are supportive of police. They want you.
Mhm.
They want you to do a good job. They want you to show up when you're called. They're not gonna rally and chant for you because they gotta live in those streets.
Mhm.
And you can't protect them 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. So I get it. They
Mhm.
stay quiet. They're a silent majority, but they do love and respect you. It's a shame to get sucked into that mentality because, you know, proactive policing is one of the best things to do for a community.
Mhm.
just responding to whatever the word tells you to. I mean, that's really not police work.
Right.
You know, some of the best bad guys I ever caught in my career were just driving down the road and noticing something out of the suspicious,
Mhm.
not normal,
Right.
and then having a conversation, that led to, arrested a serial rapist
Mm.
that was not going to be a call for service to anybody.
Right.
It was a matter of, hey, curiosity may have killed the cat, but it takes a lot of bad guys to jail.
Wow.
Um, so I think that they just never know to what degree their organization is going to support them
Mhm.
if a story hits the media. There's this pucker of, am I going to get supported for doing my job, trying to just do my job the best way that I possibly can. Are there bad cops out there? Of course there are. There's bad cops, there's bad dentists, there's
Mhm.
bad doctors, there's bad attorneys, uh, you name it. You name the profession, I'm sure we can find some rotten individual
Right.
in those organizations. But the vast majority of them are trying to do a tough job under a lot of ambiguity,
Mhm.
complexity, uncertainty.
Speaking of media, the media portrays this black and white slash officer versus black American narrative where you guys, or it would be former guys, but yeah, officers have these interaction where it immediately escalates to sometimes fatal, sometimes abuse of power, and then sometimes it actually go as professional as it can possibly go. What do you say to the audience that thinks that this is to be true, that the officers hate black Americans? There's these racial profiling, and like you said, there's bad cops and there's bad people in every industry. But to the people who believe this is the majority, how would you articulate to them that, yeah, what would you say to those people to kind of give them some insight in regards to one, how an officer thinks, or, with anybody, but furthermore with black Americans, independent on whether you're in the ghetto or not, the good ghetto or the bad ghetto. But secondly, just the framing of having to deal with that social pressure as well while being active duty.
That's a profound question, in a lot of different ways, though. From the 50,000-foot view,
Hmm.
um, I think that there's a lot of things at play that try to divide people,
Right.
um, and because if you can divide us, you can control us to some degree. You can amplify, this false rage that, really doesn't exist. I go back to we come from a place of love. I'm not gonna say that there's no racism in the world. It'd be very naive of me to
Right.
say that. But I also don't I've also don't believe that it all comes from one direction. It's a byproduct of, being scared, I think.
Mm-hmm.
People don't, they don't have any relatability. I think people get way too tribal when on that level. On the police level, in regards to, you know, I tried to start a campaign a long time ago of just like, hey, we should get, some pastors to talk about this comply and complain thing, because the vast majority of incidents where, you know, maybe the police are gonna stop a young black man, um, and it gets out of hand. Those things happen as a result of, this pushing back on, like, "I'm not gonna comply at all," and then it leads to maybe a small use of force. Um, the statistics on police shootings, there's really there's no statistics significance in regards to that cops are out, you know, killing anybody, right? I mean, on average, I think it's just under 1,000
Hmm.
police shootings annually in the entire United States. And you start to think about how many millions of calls for service, how many contacts
Right.
that police officers have. I mean, doctors kill a lot more people in
And that's
America
not talked about. Yeah.
than police do. I mean,
Drunk driving.
the last time I don't want to be misquoted on statistics, but it's statistically significant, more significant that doctors even accidentally kill people
Mm.
more than cops shoot and kill people. But I just go back to this division of like, when we come from a place of love, we can figure everything out. And I think that there's a lot of really good cops that, I mean, I could speak for myself. I've worked in some really bad parts of town, and I've seen some young kids that were hungry, and I've bought them burgers, uh, tried to throw a football around, the kids in the street, try to be a positive influence, on young men,
Mhm.
especially. I helped coordinate um, an event in it was called Oak Park. It's part of Sacramento. It's a crime-ridden neighborhood, but we had this summer night lights program that was, all intended to give kids, pro-social activities to keep them away from, doing bad, nefarious things. And we employed a lot of gang members, in that process. Um, I used to frequently have conversations with the Black Lives Matter chapter president. My geographical area of the city was the same part of the city that he lived and kind of really, really loved. And we had a lot of really good debates. And I was fortunate enough that he would meet me for coffee,
Mm.
and talk to me. Um, we were on the like, and from that conversation, I wrote an article. I think it was published in the FBI Bulletin about, because it really got me thinking about beliefs and values. And we have a propensity, like human beings bundle our beliefs and values.
Right.
We kind of like put them in the same bag.
Mhm.
We bring them to the table, and I'm going to put them on this
Right.
table with you, and I'm going to say, "Hey,
Is it?
it's." But if we sideline those beliefs, and we just, and we have, if I was to give you a piece of paper and I had a piece of paper, and we wrote down our values and then we shared them with one another, our values are very much aligned. And I don't
Mhm.
care where you're from.
Right.
Like our values, we're going to have a lot of commonality. Our beliefs could be all over the place.
Correct.
The problem with beliefs, though, is they might not be true.
Mhm. It's your belief.
And
Mm.
and sometimes they're based upon experiences, and this brain of ours sometimes misinterprets experiences,
Mhm.
especially when other people are involved. And and I've had such experiences growing up
Mhm.
with other people and made inferences that weren't true,
Right.
because that's my field. That's all the experience I've ever had. So I can understand if all the experience that you've ever had, if you grow up in uh, an economically deprived area of town and have had more contact than maybe, say, somebody like me would have with the police,
Right.
you would have a negative experience. My butt puckers when I get a cop car behind me. It just does because I always checking the speed limit to make sure
Right. That you're not speeding.
I'm on the
I think
400,
it's
man.
natural.
You can't drive on the 400 and do the speed limit.
Yeah,
You
I
will
think
get
it's
run
natural.
over.
Yeah, for sure.
Anybody ever come into Atlanta to the 400,
Yeah,
I'm telling you,
it's lit.
it's the
It's a
auto.
racetrack. Yeah, for sure.
You know. I think sometimes we just really get overly wound tight on
Mm.
issues that really aren't there.
Mhm.
And then we wanna bark at problems without bringing any solutions to the table.
Mm.
And the best way to reduce a problem is to bring a solution to the table.
Correct.
Well, it's okay. Well, if this is then how do we fix it?
Right.
For me, the only way forward is more communication, more love.
Absolutely.
I can't sit here and say it doesn't I don't like always and never,
Right. Right. Right.
because I
There's
just
always an
think
exception.
there's
Yeah.
always an exception to the rule. For the vast majority of people, I think that they just need to come together and have a good conversation and do something about it. If they see that problem
Right.
or if they feel that problem, then okay, well then what's the solution? Let's talk about the solution.
Right.
And that's where a lot of times people fall short. They're not willing to roll up their sleeves
Mhm.
and do something about it. They just want to
You get it right.
That doesn't do anything. It doesn't help anyone.
Right. Yeah. So in closing, man, I just want to thank you for coming out, sharing this experience
Yeah.
with me and my audience. I think we learned some valuable things, not just about yourself, but also about, the mental mind frame of how things operate and work in situations, and just another resource. So Magnus is your company that
Yeah.
you are actually improvising and innovating and continuously growing. You guys doing well over there. And so we'll put a link in the description in regards to making sure if people want to contact you, maybe former law enforcement or some people that's in the security industry, want to kind of contact you guys and kind of just get more information on how you guys can partner with them in helping their department or their team or their company. We'll put the description in the bottom. But B, thanks for coming through, man. This is another episode of Line Defense Podcast. I'm your host, Quentin Q. Copels. Until next time, peace.